Good afternoon, superstars. We are in here for another update. Sunday, round 24, 3 rounds to go now. We're all locked in, and we'll get into our results in the next one. But in this one here, just obviously the last four teams of that round there, and what we saw was four teams that are completed with their buys, which is good. So just keep that in mind when we're going through them. As to if you have any trades left, awesome. If you don't, thanks for still being here and watching. So with the Storm guys, really just showed here that two teams who were based, I believe, on the same points ended up just a whitewash to the Storm, and just shows where the Raiders are as a club. They're negative 110 in their differential. They only win games by less than sort of 10, and sometimes they get pumped on the other end. So yeah, unfortunate with it. Obviously, a few guys out. Seb Chris has been pretty important to them, and just really getting dominated through the forward pack, and Storm showing some of their elite capabilities. So very, very sad as a Trent Liero owner for a lot of the year, just not being able to get that try, that elusive try that we've been waiting for. And when he got opportunities in previous years, he actually had a fair few tries to his name, but had to wait a long time for this one here, and he ended up with a lovely score of 64 with 3 offloads as well. Nick Meaney had a big one, so it's been a little while, to be honest with you, since he's had a couple of really good scores in a row. The 40 odd last week, the 74 here, back to some of his best. And is it that he's trying to step up his game in the wake of Ryan Papp, my favorite player to watch, returning to the NBA, to the NRL very, very shortly. Let's hope that we do see Papp on the bench somewhere, and he can come on, and Meaney likely to be playing sort of 60 odd minutes unless there's injuries in certain games there. So yeah, that's those two there. Munster's a big one, obviously, with 63, and Hughes there with 60. So Money Munster, man, they let him in for tries so easily sometimes, some of these teams, and he obviously has the amazing twinkle toes that he can get through, couple of quick left foot steps, and he's in and away. So he does that in so many weeks there. He's got it both sides though, left and right. So very impressive for Money Munster. He started fairly slow in that first half. I think he was 12 or so after about 30 minutes, and picked it up, got to the low 20s, and then that try just kicked him over the edge with all of his general base and a few attacking stats there. So good on Munster and his owners, like that 46 last week, along with the 63 here. We're back in the mid 50s, and it's about what it's a little bit more than what you've paid for. So obviously with him, you're hoping now that he can get one of those 70 plus games that Cam McInnes and Adam Fanua-Blake and those options that we had a few weeks ago for Jack DeBellin. Along with obviously DCE, that big 88 this week. So yeah, he's not too far off the mark there, that's for sure. Hughesy back with a bang, as I said. Ellie Katoa with 55 for him, so good to see him back with a really, really good score. You look at him and go, he's probably a fair option coming into the last 3 weeks. If you need someone in that mid-range for the edge, it looks like you'll get some good minutes now, that's for sure. Harry Grant, so coming off the bench, got the 59 minutes, came on that 21st there, and played out the rest of the game. So picked up a try assist and a try, really got himself involved. Obviously plenty of run meters. One of those was 30 to 40 meters there. He picked up on that try when Meaney went through, I believe, which worked out well. 51 for him in the 60. Hopefully he doesn't do this going forward, but there's 3 rounds to go. I think there's every chance that he does continue playing the 60 with Bronson Garlick starting, considering it absolutely worked perfectly, and he came on and was able to spark the attack a bit. Obviously the team just played well in general, but definitely gave him an opportunity to do some great things out there. Corey Horsburgh, 49. So he ended up coming on for the last few minutes, picked up an extra couple of points, which was good, but PPM a little bit low for where we usually see him at, and he was absolutely killing it. 43 at halftime in the 40 minutes, and then things went a little bit pear-shaped there. A few missed tackles. He ended up picking up a bunch in a row before he went off there, but very hard when your team gets pumped 48 to 2, and a lot of it is through the middle. You're either missing a couple of tackles or you're waiting behind the sticks for them to kick a goal. So 49 for him in the end, not terrible, but considering a couple of weeks ago he had lower minutes and picked up a 30 or 33 or whatever it was, that we needed a couple more big ones in a row. Last week was good, but we needed that again, and unfortunate for him. It was just tackles were okay for 60 minutes, but the run meters down, and just that few negatives there. Didn't have massive 2-3 offloads that we can usually see from him, but it happens sometimes. Marion Seve, I just keep talking about him as one of those better centres that can come in and just do a job, and is always a 40 plus guy, but he's fairly expensive now at 560. Still think he's going to do a really good job over the last few weeks. I ended up playing Remus Smith out there as well, with Warbrick being out, so that was interesting. King with a solo one for owners of him. Welch with his first try in a couple of years, so good stuff. Christian, Joey Tarpany. Bin that's a pin, hey? TK? Crazy. 37 in this time. 53 minutes is a lot of minutes, but yeah, you can see here just a PPM down, obviously, with him as well as that of Corey Horsburgh. Ran for basically the same meters, 87 for him compared to the 84 for Corey, and frustrating if you had both, that's for sure. Like, if you can cop a 49, but 37 is very, very tough. Did get 17 updates as well, which was great, well needed. Here's an interesting one there. Will Tarpany there. Like, I think at this point, any of these top guns, it's like, well, if you can loop them, great. But really, are you going to trade anyone at this point that's not an injury or has a bye? I don't think so. So that's what I'd be looking at with him. Hudson Young, 32. So he's actually going to come in fairly cheap next year. He'll be under 700k when he starts off the season, and I don't know, he's gone backwards a little bit since Origin. He had a good bunch of rounds before Origin there, got picked. It hasn't been too great since then, averaging 48 for someone who was a mid-50s guy last year. Obviously down 155k. It's a little bit frustrating for anyone that does have him, but it's a limited amount, obviously. And then Garlic ended up playing the first full half, 40 minutes in total, basically, for his 28. So any owners of him, happy days if he snuck the 28 there. Better than a couple of my players anyway when he's got the duel. Yeah, would you look at bringing him in? I don't think so. I think Harrison Graham's going to be the pickup with JMK looking likely to be out for the rest of the season. I think Graham as the hooker cover would be fine. But if you do need the mid cover as well, then he's the cheapest that can play both. Obviously there. Matt Timoko, he had the sin bin late and just wasn't really a game for him. Again, most of these Raiders guys, it was a bit of a low one. So yeah, 21. Very unfortunate considering he was fairly consistent. He had a couple of big games and then sort of 30s and 40s, which you'll take for sure to round out an average. But yeah, this 21 hurts. But yeah, he still beat Penasini. Yeah, so could be worse. That's for sure. And then Geordie Rapps end up with the sin bin as well. 5 missed tackles at fullback. So the young fella, the older fella, and then the younger fella Ethan Strange and Kotrick there, all having low scores. So really, it's just a bit of a shocker. And, coming into next week, they should all be better. But if you brought in Raps instead of, instead of Kiraz or Campbell, none of them went amazingly well. I think Kiraz ended up the 38 as the highest. And then, Campbell 35, 36. And then Raps in here. So either way, he didn't do great. And then Ethan Strange, not a debut to remember, that's for sure. Okay, let's move to the last game of the round there. It was the Knights and the Dogs. And man, those first 2 tries were so soft, and the Dogs are gone for the season. It was nice to see Kickow have a few big hits. They were fun to watch, and Crossland and his poor bloody arm and ribs, that's for sure. He's looked like he's got bent in half. What I will say, though, is it just looked like Luke Thompson, unfortunately, just wasn't up to scratch yet. Like, he had 7 tackles, 7 misses at one point, or 6 tackles, 6 misses. We'll see where it ended up. Lukey T. Somewhere down there. What have we got? 11 points in 35 minutes. Yeah, he had 7 made, 7 misses at one point. It was him and actually Kickow that missed those two pretty simple tackles at start. Just ran straight in the gap, and they didn't even really get, hardly lay a hand on him. Unfortunately for Thompson. Still, he ends up with almost as many minutes as Max King. What is going on there? Max King is the tackle fiend. 41 minutes he gets in this matchup for 38 points. Picked up 36 tackles. There was 3 misses, and one of them was to let Leo Thompson in for his first try in the NRL, which was cool. But he worked his ass off. And yeah, I still don't understand. Can anyone tell me why Harrison Edwards is the one that gets the big minutes? He got a sin bin, right? And still got 55 minutes. That killed me because, Max King he's a good player. I actually really rate him. Especially defensively. He works really hard. And that's exactly what this team needs. And yes, it seemed like in that first inning, I think he played 28 minutes in the first inning. He was gassed. That's why he came off. But yeah, to come back on and play 13 minutes and then get taken off again, I just think is poor. But it obviously doesn't matter in the grand scheme. They're getting absolutely pumped, and by that point, it really doesn't matter, obviously. But for my fantasy team, it does. And 38 there, especially when he's doing so well. Like, I actually enjoy watching him defend because he works really hard. He's similar to that of McInnes with that work ethic. Doesn't have the kind of running game where he can duck in and out of tackles and get some tackle breaks and offloads, but he's a fun one to watch. That was frustrating there. Let's go back up top now. Gag 73 after he's 40 odd. We were very lucky last week for him to go low in the 40s because he looks like doing this against all of the teams basically, except the tip top squads there. And 73 for him, a try early, and that was so soft. Got him off to a good start. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, again, a gun center option for the last 3 weeks can be great there. With him, we have a 73. And Reed there got a try. Adam Elliott, I keep talking about him the last few weeks, has been a great mid option at 589 now. He's 549, but I think he's one that you continue to look to pop in your side if you do need someone under that 600k. If you have, it looks like in this game, probably going to lose Preston for either, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks. So at a minimum 2 weeks, which kind of cooks you for the rest of the season. So if you do have the trades left, then going him, you'd have to go. Maybe you can use a double trade. Like you can go down to Elliott and then upgrade elsewhere. But yeah, Preston's an easy option that you could straight swap if you need a mid. Then he could be a guy if there's because there's not a lot in that sort of mid to high 600s. I don't think. Like you got Frizzell at 708, but actually where's Preston? Let's just find where he is before I make any assumptions. 693. So if you had no cash in the bank, there's a bunch of guys, but I don't think you can go wrong with Elliott. Like he'll be probably a 50 scorer for the rest of the way. He's starting to bring back his offload and big minutes, so he's working really, really hard in this squad through the middle, which is good. So that's really all I want to get out. It takes a while to get out of me sometimes on a Monday morning. Ponga, 10 minutes rest, 7 goals, kicked really well on that front. For him to just have 1 try, 53 points, 10 minutes in the on the sidelines having a rest, works out great. So yeah, he's been amazing this year since coming back, like all the way to the 400s. And if you picked him up that first week, he started going well. Hat off to you. It took me a couple of weeks to grab him, but yeah, awesome stuff for him. 53. Chuala there came in for best and did a good job. Frizzell got less minutes there. Obviously copped a bit of a knock to his ankle, which apparently is re-aggravating a bit of an old injury, it sounds like, with him. But he was 29, I believe, 27 or 28, 29 at halftime, and ended up at the 43. So he would have got about a 50, at least you'd say, if he got the full 80, and hopefully for his sake and owners of him, that he can get back to an 80-minute game if it is a little bit closer. Greg Marzu ended up at 42, so you'd take that. Again, it wasn't his best game. He did have 1 error. Bit of a soft drop there, but 210, 7 tackle breaks, no tries, and line breaks in this one. So take that 42 in this type of game when it doesn't go his way in this time. Burton 41, he's going to be pretty cheap next year, isn't he? He'd be in the mid to high 600s. He's lost 84k so far. Bit of an average year, isn't it? And dogs have to be better, don't they? But good thing with him is that he's been able to score this well at 48 with a team that's so bad, to be honest with you. So he's definitely someone to look at if the team does improve. Maybe we don't have to start with him, but if they start to get on a bit of a roll, I see him as a mid to high 50s kind of scorer very, very comfortably there. Preston was able to do pretty well, guys, with his sin bin, but the 39, you'll cop. Like if he plays the rest of the game, it's likely to be a 50 plus score, which is big bang on where he is. But yeah, have a look at. You're probably going to have to sell him. Kiraz is a nice one at 548. You'll take the 38 in an absolute smashing, and yeah, there'll be better games where they don't get hammered in these last 3, but few and far between, that's for sure. Yeah, kick out we spoke about. Sexton, a really low one. That was a strange one for him. Didn't get involved, obviously, but yeah, they did get hammered. Spoke about Luke Thompson, tough return, and then Hastings with his injury, the poor fella. So I hope he comes back all right for finals potentially if they can make it, and it will affect them going into the next few games. But they did pretty well. Like he went out in the 24th minute, and they're still able to really win well. So yeah, something to think about. And the tough ones here: Averillo, Blake Wilson. For those that played Averillo in the centres, ouch. Yeah, you couldn't expect that. Like he's been scoring really, really well. So that's a tough one. And Adokar with 2. So he was getting frustrated at certain points as well. I think he whacked Ponga after a pass and then stood over him. Like, okay, mate, that was a bit of an interesting one. I don't know. Your team's getting pumped and you're missing 4 tackles, making 6, 2 errors and a penalty, and you're standing over someone. I do love you, Adokar, but I don't know if that was the play in that one. But anyway, guys, that's that video. Thank you very much for being here for this one, and we'll get into the round results a little bit later.